What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Thomas, and I'm here with the creative director of Halloween Horror Nights, John Murdy. Mr. John Murdy, first question. There seems to be a theme with Halloween Horror Nights 2019. A lot of 1980s.
Kind of emerging, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
So my question is, what was it about 1980s that you think made it like this primetime golden era for horror films?
It's funny because I went to high school and college in the 80s, so all these properties I saw in the theater, when I was at that age. It's just something, when you get older, like I am, you realize that this is a big cycle that goes on. In the 80s, what was cool? The 50s. That's what it was. When I was a kid, it was the Stray Cats and rockabilly music and, Happy Days. And everybody was looking back to the 50s, and fashion was informed by that. But now it's the 80s. And especially with things like Stranger Things,
Right.
They've really made the 80s super hot. Last year we had a couple of properties. This year we seem to have a whole lot of properties that are from the 80s when you think about it. Mm-hmm. Obviously Stranger Things is contemporary, but it takes place in the 80s. Absolutely. And it's all steeped in that culture. Mm-hmm. Obviously Ghostbusters is one of the biggest hit films from that period. Killer Clowns came out in the 80s. Creepshow, the original film, came out in the 80s. So it just seemed like this is the year where we're going to celebrate the 80s. And there was just a lot of great filmmakers, a lot of them that started in the 70s that kind of came into their own in that period.
And I'm all for it. I mean, I'm hoping, and you can either deny it or not say anything, I'm hoping that we will see actually Ghostbusters represented in two mazes, that hopefully we'll see them in Stranger Things and also in the Ghostbusters maze.
Well, you never know.
All right, that's fair.
We've done so many properties over the years. I remember at one point, probably like 7 years ago, I was like, what are we going to do? We've done like Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, Michael Myers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we keep trying to find things that maybe stretch the boundaries of even what you'd accept as horror.
Right.
And, Ghostbusters definitely falls into that category. It's not a horror film. It's a comedy with horror elements. So hopefully, if we did our jobs right, you're going to get both of the aspects of that as you go through the experience. But it is fun to push those boundaries and try different things. And that's, hopefully how we grow.
And I mean, I'm totally excited for the Ghostbusters maze. Now I also want to talk a little bit, not from the IP side, but also the original mazes. So you have a band, you have your band Blue Room, and you are a musician. So I want to know a little bit about your, just to pick your brain about, as a musician and also as this creative director, what have been some of the, when you're developing these mazes, like the one Universal Monsters last year with Slash, and Slash returning this year, and Figure returning this year, has there been, because it's been a little bit easier for you having that music background?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, when I was 10 years old, I was roadieing for my brother's band when they were playing the Sunset Strip, going into clubs that I had no business being allowed into. That would never happen today, but it happened a lot back then. So I grew up, I had older brothers. Both my brothers are professional musicians, and they've literally had no other job but music since they worked at McDonald's in high school. So their whole lives they've been in music. So I've always been around music. I've always been in bands. So I'm always drawn to that world, and I'm really comfortable with those people. And honestly, they're like the coolest people in the world. And I've always found that whether it was working with Alice Cooper or Black Sabbath or Slash, I mean, the friendships that have lasted and the people that I still am connected to are people like that. I mean, it's like Christmas and I get phone calls, from Slash or, my kids ask him questions and he answers them, texting him no matter where he is in the world, he'll answer their questions. Like, what's your favorite color? Just crazy stuff. And it's just weird. It just seems like that's the way it's worked out. I've always just been really comfortable being around rock and roll. And I just always wanted to bring that world to life in Horror Nights as well. And that all started, back with the Alice Cooper mazes years ago. And then Rob Zombie also, and Black Sabbath, and then in a totally different way, Figure. And Figure's been around our event for a lot of years. Even when he's not doing a maze, we always use his music in the park. So it's fun to collaborate, and I think this is the first time I've actually co-written this stuff.
Oh, wow.
So I wrote a bunch of songs with Figure. I wrote the vocal melodies and the lyrics to be intentionally really bad children's songs juxtaposed against his really hard edge, EMD dubstep type music. So it should be fun. I just cut the vocals yesterday. So so I was over in Ireland writing all these little songs. So.
Well, I can't wait. Now, one final question, because I know the cameraman's going to be he's going to be upset if I don't ask this. Creepshow. You announced it today. We're really looking forward to it. What were some of the episodes that were so close to making it, but were left on the cutting room floor?
Yeah, I mean, I love the whole movie. So I at one point I was really pushing for something to tide you over, because I particularly like the makeup in that. When Ted Danson's character comes back, he's that waterlogged zombie. I just love the makeup in that scene. We were going to do a different one from the TV series, and then Greg started emailing me, and he was like, "You got to check out Gray Matter," because they were filming it at the time, and so we totally changed and put the other one aside. But that's what's so fun about anthology horror, whether it was like Trick or Treat, which we did last year. What's exciting about those mazes, and I mean, Holidays in Hell is an anthology maze, even though it's original, is that you get to have such great variety of characters. It's not just all one flavor, it's a bunch of different flavors, and that's exciting.
Well, I'm so looking forward to it. And make sure to head on over to Universal Studios Hollywood on September 13th when Halloween Horror Nights comes to the park. John, thank you so much.
Thank you, always a pleasure.